You know that feeling when you check your banking app? You do the thumb scan, the little circle spins, and the screen pops up. For a second, you just stare at the number. It's not bad. Actually, objectively speaking, it's probably pretty good. You've been working hard, you've been stashing money away, and you're finally seeing some traction. But then, almost immediately, that weird creeping doubt sets in. You look at the number, let's say it's hovering right around the 50 grand mark, and you think, is this it? It feels like you've been sprinting uphill for miles, sweating, out of breath, only to look up and realize the peak is nowhere in sight. You have this chunk of cash, sure, but it doesn't feel like life-changing wealth. It doesn't feel like freedom. It just feels like a number that sits there, mocking you, because you know that if you lost your job today, that money, while it would buy you time, would eventually run out. It's a strange, anxious middle ground. You're not living paycheck to paycheck anymore, which is huge, don't get me wrong, but you're not exactly sipping margaritas on a beach without a care in the world either. You're stuck in this thick, grey fog of the middle class. I've spent countless hours staring at spreadsheets, reading forums, and just watching people's behaviors when they hit this specific spot. My name is Bob, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, financial psychology, and why some people seem to effortlessly build wealth, while others stay stuck in the same financial patterns for decades. And let me tell you, the $50,000 mark is where I see more people quit, give up, or get distracted than almost any other point in the journey. It's the valley of disappointment, and today, we're going to figure out why it's so psychologically hard to cross, and more importantly, how you can push through it even when your brain is screaming at you to just go buy a new car and forget about it. Because here's the thing that nobody really talks about. Getting to zero from negative is hard. Getting from 0 to 10,000 is exciting. But getting from 10,000 to 50,000, that is a slog. It is a test of pure, unadulterated patience. And if you can understand why it feels so impossible, you can stop beating yourself up and actually keep moving forward. So, if you've felt like your progress has stalled or like you're running in mud, stick around, because we're about to dismantle the biggest hurdle in your entire financial life. So, let's talk about the psychology of the early days. When you first start saving money, especially if you're coming from a place of debt or living on the edge, the wins feel massive. I mean, think back to when you had absolutely nothing. You scrape together your first $100. You feel like a king. You get your first $1,000 emergency fund. You sleep better at night than you have in years. It's tangible. It's visceral. And the progress is relatively linear. Every dollar you save is a huge percentage increase in your net worth. Going from $100 to $200 is a 100% return. That feels amazing. Your brain releases dopamine. You feel accomplished, and you think, okay, I've got this figured out. But then, slowly, things change. You hit $10,000. That's a great milestone. Then $20,000. But somewhere around the $30,000 to $50,000 range, that dopamine drip, it just stops. You save $500 this month, which is a lot of money. That's a decent chunk of change. But you look at your total balance, and $500 on top of $42,000 doesn't even move the needle visually. It feels like you're pouring water into a bucket with a hole in the bottom, or worse, a bucket that is just infinitely large. This is the first major hurdle, the loss of the quick win. At $50,000, the percentage growth from your savings, not the market, but your actual effort, becomes tiny. You're no longer seeing those massive double-digit percentage jumps just by skipping a few coffees or working an extra shift. You have to save thousands of dollars now just to see a 1 or 2% bump in your total net worth. It's demoralizing. Honestly, it's boring. And human beings, we are terrible at boredom. We crave novelty. We crave progress. When the progress bar slows down, our brains interpret that as failure. You start thinking, what's the point? I'm working this hard, sacrificing all this fun, and the number barely budges. Most people at this stage start looking for shortcuts. They start gambling on individual stocks, or they get sucked into crypto schemes, or they decide to reward themselves with a purchase that sets them back months because they just need to feel something again. The trap here is thinking that because the rate of change has slowed down, the importance of what you're doing has decreased. But the opposite is true, that $50,000 is the foundation. It is the bedrock. But because it's not shiny and new anymore, you take it for granted. You stop seeing it as, wow, I have $50,000, and start seeing it as only $50,000. That one word shift, only, is what kills the momentum. Okay. So let's say you've managed to save $50,000. You've done the hard work. You're in the top tier of savers. Statistically speaking, you should be proud. But there's a sinister little gremlin that whispers in your ear at this specific net worth level. It usually sounds like this: you've done well. You're responsible now. You deserve to enjoy life a little. And honestly, you do deserve to enjoy life. I'm not saying you should live like a monk forever. But the $50,000 mark is where lifestyle creep, or lifestyle inflation, does the most damage. It's subtle. It's not buying a Lamborghini. It's not moving into a mansion. It's the small, permanent upgrades to your monthly burn rate that lock you into needing a higher income just to survive. Here's what happens. You get a raise at work. You're making more money. Instead of shoveling that entire difference into your investments, you think, hey, I can afford the slightly better apartment now with the gym in the building. Or, my car is 5 years old. I should probably upgrade to something safer, newer. Or maybe you start ordering the expensive delivery but of cooking. Just because you can. On the surface, these seem like reasonable quality of life improvements. But here is the brutal math. If you increase your monthly expenses by $500, which is shockingly easy to do between a nicer car payment, a slightly higher rent, and some subscriptions, that is $6,000 a year. Over 10 years, that's $60,000 in lifestyle spending. But more importantly, that $500 a month is money that cannot go toward compounding dot at $50,000. You are on the precipice of your wealth starting to actually snowball, but only if you keep feeding it. If you start upgrading your life at the exact moment your wealth is ready to accelerate, you put the brakes on. You effectively reset the clock. It's like running a marathon and deciding to stop for a nice sit-down meal every mile. You're still moving forward, technically, but you're never going to finish the race, or at least not anytime soon. I see this constantly. People get to $50,000 or $100,000 and they feel safe. They feel like they've made it. So they relax. They loosen the belt. They stop tracking every penny because, hey, they have a cushion. But that cushion is what allows you to take risks, to change careers, to survive a recession. When you eat your cushion to fund a nicer lifestyle, you are trading your future freedom for present comfort. And the crazy part is, the comfort doesn't even make you that much happier. It just becomes your new normal. You get used to the nicer apartment into weeks. Then it's just your apartment. But you've permanently increased the cost of your existence. That is a trap that is incredibly hard to escape once you're in it. There is also a profound identity crisis that happens around this number. I like to call $50,000 the middle child of net worth. It's not the baby, the newborn $1,000 savings account that needs constant protection and attention. And it's not the mature adult, the $1 million portfolio that stands on its own 2 feet and can basically support the family. $50,000 is awkward. It's too much to keep in a checking account earning 0.01% interest. That feels stupid. You know you should invest it, but it's not enough to really matter in the grand scheme of, say, retiring at 40. If you invest $50,000 and the market goes up 10%, you made $5,000. That's great, but $5,000 doesn't change your life. It doesn't let you retire. So you start looking at this money and wondering what its purpose is. This confusion leads to paralysis. A lot of people get to $50,000 and they just stop. They don't invest it aggressively because they're afraid of losing it. They don't spend it because they know they shouldn't. So it sits there in a high-yield savings account, which is fine for a while, but inflation is eating it alive. They are stuck in purgatory. The psychological hurdle here is the fear of loss. When you have $500, losing $100 feels bad.